They thought you were weak. They thought they had you all figured out. They believed your silence was a sign of surrender. But what they didn't see, what they never understood, was that your silence was the most dangerous thing about you. They thought you were weak. They watched you, studied you, and assumed you were nothing more than a shadow in their midst. Every time they saw you, they saw calmness, patience. They saw stillness, and they mistook it for fragility. They threw their insults at you thinking you wouldn't notice. Their jabs, their mocking words, the sneaky dismissals, every one of them came with a smug assurance that you were small, that you didn't matter. What they didn't realize was that you weren't reacting because you were waiting for the right moment. They thought you were retreating, but you weren't. You were collecting everything, every sneer, every word, every glance. They believed you would break, that their disregard would crush you. But they didn't know the truth. You were building something inside you. Every insult they threw at you was adding fuel to the fire. And the longer you waited, the stronger the flame grew. What they didn't realize was that the calm they saw in you wasn't weakness. It was a storm waiting to strike. And when it did, it would be precise. It would be unstoppable. You stayed calm. You kept your composure, your emotions locked away. But it wasn't because you didn't care. No, it was because you were studying, watching, observing. They thought they had you cornered, didn't they? They thought their taunts would make you crumble, break your spirit. But all they did was build the foundation for your power. Every word they used to tear you down was actually forging your resolve. They never understood the strength it took to remain composed in the face of deliberate cruelty. But you understood. You knew the storm was coming, and it would hit with a precision they couldn't fathom. Your silence wasn't submission. It was the calm before the storm. You could have lashed out. You could have let your anger spill over. But that would have been predictable. It would have given them exactly what they wanted. Instead, you chose to wait, to build, to strategize. And when the moment comes, oh, they won't see it coming. They'll still think they're in control. But you'll be standing tall, unstoppable, unshaken, and ready to strike. Patience is not the absence of action. It is the presence of control. They underestimated your patience, thinking it was weakness. But your patience was your weapon of choice. They thought you were weak, didn't they? They saw you standing in silence, observing, and they made the mistake of thinking it was because you didn't know how to act. They looked at you, waiting, and assumed you were passive. But the truth is, you were never passive. You were always in control, always calculating, always building. While they rushed ahead, blinded by their own arrogance. You took your time. You didn't need to rush, didn't need to react on impulse. You understood that real power doesn't come from haste. It comes from control. True strength lies in knowing when to move and when to wait. It lies in understanding that timing is everything. It's knowing that in the stillness, in the silence, you are gathering everything you need to rise. In every moment they thought you were retreating, you were actually observing. You were studying their moves, understanding their weaknesses, and learning their patterns. While they moved with haste, trying to push you down, trying to force you into submission, You remained calm, and they didn't realize that in your calmness, you were gaining insight. Every insult, every backhanded comment, every dismissive glance, it all became information. It all became ammunition for the storm you were silently preparing. They fed you their doubts, their insecurities, thinking they were chipping away at your confidence. But you weren't absorbing their words as defeat. No, you were absorbing them as fuel. Every doubt they projected onto you became the spark that ignited your resolve. Every insult was not a mark of your weakness, but a mark of their own fear. They tried to tear you down, but in doing so, they built you up. With every insult, you grew stronger, sharper. They didn't realize that while they tried to break you, they were actually forging your power. You were letting it all sink in, yes, but not to destroy you, to transform you. You understood that it was in the darkest of moments, when others thought you would crumble, that you were actually becoming your truest self. You let them underestimate you. You let them think you were small, invisible, weak, because every time they overlooked you, they gave you another chance to grow, another moment to rise without them even knowing it. They couldn't see what you were building. They couldn't see that with every insult they threw your way, you were shaping your future. They couldn't see that with every dismissal, every laugh at your expense, you were learning how to navigate their world with precision. They thought their words were cutting you down, but in truth, they were giving you the tools to rise above them. They were carving out the path to your victory, even though they thought they were destroying you. Every single thing they did to tear you down was actually a lesson. It wasn't just a moment of cruelty. It was an opportunity to understand their mindset, their limitations. You learned how they think, how they act, and most importantly, how they fail. They were showing you their weaknesses without even realizing it. Every time they mocked you, they gave you insight into their own fears, and you learned how to use that. You learned how to turn their weaknesses into your strength. And now, you're not just ready, you're unstoppable. You've been building for too long to be stopped now. The patience you showed wasn't passive, it was purposeful. You've been sharpening your mind, your skills, your resolve. You've been silently gathering your strength, knowing that when the moment comes, you'll be ready to strike. You've built the foundation. You've learned what you needed to learn. Now there's no stopping you. They thought you were waiting for the right time to fall, but what they didn't know was that you were waiting for the right moment to rise, and that time is coming soon. They won't see it coming. They'll be so sure that you're weak, that you're stuck, that they'll be completely blindsided when you strike. But the moment won't be a burst of rage. It won't be an outburst of emotion. It will be measured, precise, unstoppable. You've been waiting, not for the world to give you a reason to rise, but for the perfect moment to show them who you've always been. And when that moment comes, they'll see that your patience was never a sign of weakness. It was your weapon of choice. Now, they'll have to face the storm they never saw coming. They'll never see it coming. They'll be caught off guard, blinded by their own arrogance. But you knew this moment would come. You've been waiting for it. The turning point, the moment when everything shifts. They've laughed at you, mocked you, underestimated you at every turn. But they don't understand what happens when the quiet ones rise. They never expected you to have this much power, This much strength, hidden beneath your calm exterior. You've been building your strength in silence, collecting your power in secret. And when you strike, it won't be a moment of anger. It won't be an outburst. It will be a precise, calculated move. A calculated response to everything they've done to you. When you rise, it won't be with fury. It will be with a quiet confidence, the kind that shakes the world to its core, even though no one sees it coming. Let them laugh. Let them mock. They thought they were breaking you. They thought they were showing the world that you were nothing. But the truth is, they were the ones breaking themselves. Every insult, every jab, every sneer, it only gave you the strength to rise above them. They handed you everything you needed to become untouchable. They thought they were pulling you down, but in reality, they were building the very foundation that would launch you to heights they couldn't even imagine. And when you rise, oh, when you rise, it won't be with anger. It won't be to prove them wrong. It will be to prove yourself right. You've always known your worth. They were the ones who couldn't see it. Now, the time is here. The moment is now. And when you rise, it won't be for their approval. It won't be for their applause. It will be for your own triumph. They thought you were weak. They thought you were small. They thought they could break you. But they never understood the real truth. You were never weak. It was them. They were the ones who couldn't see what was right in front of them. The power that was quietly building inside you. Now, you rise. You rise with the strength they never knew you had. You rise with the power of every insult, every underestimation, every moment they tried to pull you down. And when you rise, you won't need to say a word. The silence will speak louder than anything they could ever say. You've outgrown their petty games. You've outgrown their judgments. And now, you are ready to take your place. Not for them, but for yourself. You've waited long enough. Now, the world will see who you truly are. You were never weak. You were just waiting for the right moment. The time has come. The moment you've been waiting for. And when you rise, it won't be a roar of fury. It will be the quiet triumph of a soul who knew all along what they were capable of. They thought you were weak. They thought they could break you. But now, you rise, unshaken, relentless, unstoppable. You've been waiting for this moment your whole life. And now, the world will know. The power was never theirs. It was always yours.